Hello, welcome to episode 44 of Berry Fun Adventures. My name is Tanya and I'm coming to you from southeast Minnesota, where my family and I run a fruit farm called Firefly Berries, and where I dye yarn naturally with the plants that I grow on our farm. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. And if you are new, thanks for coming to check out the channel. So it has been about 4 weeks since I have come to you last. Since I last recorded, my husband and I went on a little vacation to the Florida Keys and to like southern Florida. We went to the Everglades for about a week and a half. Our wedding anniversary is in the middle of February. So if we can swing it, we have see, some people have like a monthly budget for like saving up for Christmas. We have a budget for travel because we really enjoy doing that together. So if we can swing it, we like to go somewhere warm in January or February to kind of celebrate our anniversary. So this year we went to the Florida Keys, and it was not quite as warm there as we had hoped. They were actually having a cold snap, but it was still in the mid 60s, close to 70s most days that we were there. And then like the last 2 days, we were back up in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, and it was in the low to mid 70s. So that was really nice to get away. And I knit a ton, and I did some crochet while we were gone. I'll show you in my finished objects, but I knit almost an entire sweater for my husband while we were gone. So when I came back, I had a really hard time, and I'm still having a really hard time getting back into the groove of work stuff. So I homeschool my kids. If you are new to the channel and you don't know that, I have just one left at home that I homeschool full time. I have two that are in college that I homeschooled from the time my oldest was in second grade. And then I have one that is a junior in high school who attends the local college, so he gets all of his classes there. And then I just have a sixth grader left at home. So I have been doing homeschool stuff with him. Still been taking care of the house, but I have been spending a lot of time watching reruns of the British baking show, trying new recipes, and just crafting all the things, which kind of got me thinking about when I went to put together my notes for this podcast. I was thinking, our mental state totally affects our crafting. And I feel like that is totally the case since I have come back from Florida. I just don't want to get into work. I don't know if it's the winter. I just sort of want to hunker down and sit on my chair in front of the fireplace. Or I have been really into diamond painting. My son, who is 12, I think it was about a year ago, he was into diamond painting, and he had been using these little ones. And he went to Joann Fabrics once when we went to get fabric. And he found this humongous one. I don't even know how big it is. It's huge, 16 by 20 inches or something. And he was having a hard time getting started on it. And so I was like, oh, I like to do that. So I kind of started to do it with him to kind of get him excited. And he is excited now. But I have to say that I have been kind of hogging the diamond painting. I'll put my earbuds in, particularly in the evening when I just feel like I don't even have the bandwidth to knit. And I'll watch reruns of the British baking show, and I'll just sit there and I could do it for hours. Anyway, so my mental state, I think, has been a little, I don't even know how to explain it. It's not bad. I mean, I'm doing fine. I think it's a combination of winter, maybe feeling like, I don't know, I need more relaxing time, more recuperating time to get ready for the busy season that we have here on the farm that's coming up. I don't know what it is exactly, but all I want to do is craft and try new recipes, and that's it. I don't want to do any work. I haven't been doing any dyeing since I've come to you last. I think part of it is, I'll talk about it when I get to the Very Fun Yarn segment, but I have had some wonderful, it's not past tense, some wonderful ladies who are test knitting the Snow Plow Cowl, which I will show you later. And some of the kits I put together, the way colors worked, they just didn't work out the way I was thinking they would, and they're still beautiful. I still love them. But it kind of made me have to go back to the drawing boards. I don't know if you creative people out there, if you ever like have this vision of how things will work and then it doesn't work, and it's sort of like kind of is like, oh man, I worked so hard on that. I really liked that idea. And then it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, I got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what to do. So I think that sort of deflated some of my motivation for a while when I first came back. But I did write down yesterday, I wrote down some ideas of things I'm going to do to tweak those kits. And hopefully that will be out early March. So the next time I come to you, I'll have more to tell you about that. And then the other thing I have done to kind of get myself motivated to do things again is I have done some organizing. I kind of joke that, I have boys, and whenever you make ball jokes, they think that's really funny. But I've been playing with my tiny balls of yarn. So all of my like little mini skeins to try to finish up some of the projects that I have started for my blankets and things. I've been sorting through those, and I'm going to tell you all about that. So I should probably just stop jabbering and get on to it. But the first thing I want to share with you, let's see which project. How about we start with these? I finished 4 things since I came to you last. 3 of them I had started, and 1 of them I started and finished all the same day. So let me tell you about those. The first one is my Florida rollers, I'm calling them. And this is a pattern by Mara Catherine Briner. It is the Rose City Rollers pattern. I have both socks here. I just put one on the blocker to show you, but this is the Christmas Tree Farm colorway, and it is by Lavender Loon. And I knit mine size US 1 needles. I knit mine double pointed usually, and I knit them 60 stitches around. So the pattern, I can't remember, the pattern is free on Ravelry, and it is not complicated at all. It's just basically any pattern you have, whatever your basic sock pattern is, you just do a rolled cuff at the top and you make them shorties. So that's basically what it is. I did my own heel flap and gusset heel, my own toe decrease like I normally do. So I followed the pattern very loosely, but I started these because I wanted another pair of shorties. I really like the shorty socks for the spring and fall months in particular when it's not super hot out. I like to wear wool socks yet. If I'm out like picking berries or working in pruning and things like that, or just out and about that's not work related. And so I only had 1 pair of socks. I think I had one pair of socks left, shorties, because I had 2 that had gotten holes in last year. One of those 2 pair I had to throw out, and the other pair I did mend. I was able to mend because it was just on the toe. So I cast these on to have when I was in Florida, and it actually worked out really well because I finished them while we were in Florida. I finished the first sock on the airplane. I think I was maybe just past the gusset decreases. I think I had just stopped. I just finished the gusset decreases. So I finished the rest of that one, started the next one, and then the next day while we were driving and things, I finished, I want to say the next day. Yeah, I finished the second sock. So I was able to wear those when I was there because, like I said, it wasn't quite as warm as it was supposed to be, or as that we thought it would be. It was still plenty warm, but it was like, high 50s, around 60 in the morning, but very breezy. And then we had like 3 days of rain off and on. So I definitely needed those when I was down there. So that is the Rose City Rollers. And then the next one I also knit was another pair of socks. And these in my project page are called the Lincoln socks. And this is loosely based on the Georgia socks by Tracy Miller of the Grocery Girls. And My 12-year-old has humongous feet. He's got very wide feet, very long feet. He already has a size 9 in the men's shoes. He's just started to really grow, and he has really wide feet. So I have to make him, this is the first pair, and he loves these. So you can see they have been worn. They even have a little pills on them already. They've been worn and washed. And this is Woolens and Nosh. I can't remember the colorway, but it's a Woolens and Nosh self-striping Targhee base that she has in fingering weight. And I did them 72 stitches around. And then I just took this little lace pattern here off of the Georgia Socks pattern. So I just pulled it, I think it's like an 11 or 12 stitch little panel that goes down the side, and I just put one on each, on the outside of each. Yeah, but these did take me quite a while, and they used pretty much the entire skein. I didn't have very much left, so it's a good thing he doesn't like super long legs, because I would have had to do a different toe and heel. I was curious. The reason I did do them all, sometimes, especially with self-striping, I like to do a different heel, but it's such beautiful yarn that I wanted to use as much as possible. And I kind of wanted to see if I could get a full skein or a full pair of socks out of it with the larger size, and I can. So that kind of tells me I need at least 400. I think this particular yarn has like 393 yards per 100 grams, so it's a little bit thicker fingering weight, but it still was enough to get out a pair of socks. So that's 2 pair of socks, and those I also finished when I was on vacation. And then the other thing I did on vacation was this sweater. So I have it hanging over my day lamp back here, but this is the Louisiana sweater by Petite Knit, and it's really hard to see, but it is a simple pullover with raglan increases, and then just very simple edging here. And this is for my husband. I do, so when we first got back, it was pretty cold, but now it is back up into the 40s. And so my husband says it's a little bit warm out. So when we first got home, he didn't want me to wash and block it at all because he wanted to wear it right away. So I take that back. I didn't finish it on vacation. I had about this much of the sleeve left. I ran out of yarn. I didn't quite take enough skeins along. So when I came back, I finished it a couple days after we got back. And yeah, and so then he's been wearing it. But he did decide that his cuffs were about 1 inch too short. So later today or tomorrow, I'll probably pull out the edge and just knit 1 inch longer and cast off. So I followed the pattern Louisiana sweater, like I said. However, I will say that pattern, I don't know that I would call it size inclusive. I think to be considered size inclusive, it should go up to a US 60-inch bust. I could be wrong on that. I know there's a lot of discussion on that, but this one only, the largest size, it goes from a 31, I wrote it down, 31.5 inches to a 51.25 inch bust. So in my opinion, I don't think that's really size inclusive. So take that for what it's worth. And I did get this pattern a while ago because I made myself one of these sweaters, and I wasn't really paying attention to that at that time because it wasn't something at the forefront of my mind. But I'm trying to do better. So that being said, my husband is not a very large man. You can see his little picture back there. I think he wanted a fair bit of positive ease. So I think he had like a 42-inch chest, and I made the I was going to make the 48-inch chest. However, I ended up making one size smaller because my gauge was not quite the right bit. And so I did a little math and figured out the stitches matched more closely to the one size smaller. So that's what I did. It gave me pretty much the same measurements as the 48-inch one. It just was, you know, I just switched it based on my size, my gauge. So what I used for this is a super bulky pattern. I actually used 2 strands of wool of the Andes worsted from Knit Picks held double. I find that I get a pretty close gauge for that. The pattern calls for a US 13 for the body and a US 11 for the neck and the cuffs, and then the edging at the bottom. I am a loose knitter, so generally for patterns I go down 2 needle sizes, and that worked perfect. So I did a size 9 for the neck cast on and then the cuffs and the ribbing at the bottom, and I did a US size 11 for the rest. And it has a nice drape to it. It's not too tight, but it's also not too loose. So yeah, he loves it, and I think he'll wear it a lot. Oh, I was going to say one other thing. So I did make some other modifications for him, and that would be that the pattern, you can kind of see when you look at this, the pattern has more, it has no sleeve decreases. You start and then you decrease a lot at the cuff, and you have kind of a puff sleeve. Well, he didn't like that look. At first he thought he would, but he didn't. In the end, I made him try it on a lot while we were gone because I wanted it to be just right. I made him a sweater before, and he likes it, but things he thought he would like, he didn't like as much. And sometimes it just takes a try or two to get it right. So I made him try it on a lot to make sure I got it right for him, and I took a lot of notes. So if he did like it, I could easily make another one in a different color for him, because that's kind of his style. He likes the same sort of thing. But so what I was going to say is for him, I did do some decreases. So I had him try it on, and then right away at the top, he's not super big in the arms, and I thought that the arms were kind of, there was quite a lot of positive ease at the top. So I decreased a bit here, and then again closer to the elbow, and then a couple times down. And all those notes I will have on my project page, hopefully by the time this video goes live, so you can kind of see that. But doing those decreases did help to make the pattern a little more masculine. I think he felt like it maybe was a little too feminine, the way it had the poofy sleeves. So that was the one thing I did, and I think that's it. Yeah, I'll definitely put a picture in here of him if I haven't done that already, so you can see what it looks like on him, but he loves that. And I'm going to hopefully finish that addition to the sleeves and then wash and block it for him in the coming days. Okay, and then the fourth thing I finished since I came to you last was a pair of cloud slippers. If you have been with me for a while, you will know that I have made probably at least a dozen pair of cloud slippers. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry by Adrienne Sullivan. And it uses Lion brand woolies, thick and quick. And this pair I made in this spice colorway. But I have found that the woolies, thick and quick, if you've ever worked with it before, it's mostly acrylic with a little bit of wool. But because of the way it's not spun very tightly. And so when you're walking, you get a lot of friction on the bottom, and so it can wear pretty fast if you are a heavy wearer of the slippers. So I have found if I hold a fingering weight of 80-20 sock weight yarn, double with the woolies, then it gives a little more strength because it has the nylon in there, and it lasts just a little bit longer. And then also it's a little bit thicker yarn, so I keep the same needle size. And I think I knit these in an 11. I can't remember what the pattern recommends. I think the pattern recommends a 13, but I knit them in an 11. And so the pair that I made was for my son. I don't have them here because he wanted them right away because he blew out a hole in his other ones and it was getting cold. So I gave them to him right away. but I held it double with a little bit of leftover of this Christmas tree farm because they're kind of the color of this like brownie color in there. And so they're a little bit more wild than he probably would like, but the spice color was something that I had in my stock, in my stash. And so I wasn't going to go out and buy something new. And I didn't really have an exact brown match. I just made it work. So he doesn't care. They're warming his feet and he is enjoying those. Okay, let's move on to works in progress. I actually have worked on quite a bit, which is kind of amazing to me because I spent a lot of time diamond painting in the last particularly week and a half. So I guess I could have gotten a lot more done had I wanted to. But alas, it did what I needed to do and what my brain needed. But one of the other projects I took with me on vacation was my granny square blanket project. Now, if you've seen these granny square blankets, crocheted granny squares, I'm not using any particular pattern, I guess. There's a tutorial and a link to kind of what I'm referencing in my project page, which I will link below. But I am using fingering weight scraps. I think each square takes about 8 grams of yarn, 8 or 9 grams. And these are all the ones I have done since last time. I'm not going to show you every single one, but got different colors, some pinks, some blue. This one I really like this one. Wild. This one is a really fun lavender loon one. I like that one. Let's see, any other really exciting ones. Oh, this is the Christmas tree farm scrap I had from my socks. Isn't that different? So this is it knit up, and this is it crocheted. The pink really comes out in the crochet, I thought. So that was kind of cool. So what I did when I went on vacation is I had a little bag and I think I took 10 or 11 little tiny balls of yarn and my crochet hook. And I took that on the plane with me along with a pair of socks because I thought maybe I'm not in the mood to knit. Maybe something happens and they confiscate my knitting needles. I still have my crochet. And so I worked on these and I really got in a groove. I'm really enjoying this. In fact, I'm still enjoying this. I did several when I came back. So for my pattern, I believe I will need 96 squares. I started out the year thinking I was pretty far along, but I only had I want to say I had right around 30 squares when the new year started. And now, drum roll, I have 71 squares and I am so excited. I think 71. We'll see if I did my math right. Maybe it's 75. It's in the early 70s, but I counted yesterday because when I was sorting through my mini skeins and things, I decided to make a basket to put in my little organizer behind here. So here's my little granny square blanket basket, and I have my squares I've done so far in there. So I counted all of my squares. By the way, these are little cedar rings. I don't know if you've ever seen these before, but these are they need to be sanded a smidge. They're made of cedar wood. You can buy them on Amazon. You can get them in ball form as well. These have holes in them because you can hang them over a hanger. But when they start to not have smell, you can sand them. I have the bag here. It looks like this. And there's a little piece of sandpaper in there. So you can sand them. And the idea is that the cedar smell will detract moths or bugs from getting into your yarn and your projects. So I like to throw these in with things that I leave in the open. So like my basket and stuff like that. Anyway, so I counted all of my squares. This is so exciting. I'm getting so excited about this. Look at my stack of squares. I feel like what's his name? Grover holding his ice cream flavors. Isn't that awesome? I'm very excited about that. Anyway, small pleasures in life. So I Oh my goodness, I'm making a mess here. So I counted these all, and I'm getting really, really close to having enough to put them together. And so then I went into my mini skein stash. If you've been around a while, you know that I love to make scrappy blankets, and I have way too many blankets going, although I am making very excellent progress. And I figured out how many more I needed, and I pulled out, I believe it was 21, which is what's making me think I have 75 little squares. I pulled out what I needed, my most favorite ones, and I stuck them in my very cool sloth yoga bag by Fancy Boy Designs. That's the name? Yes, Fancy Boy Designs. With my crochet hook, which I am using a C 2.75 millimeter clover hook, and my scissors. And I'm so excited. I actually think I'm going to leave this out, but I'm so excited to sit down and work on these. And I think what's great about this is when you get close to the end of a project, especially something as long-term as a blanket, when you can start to see the end, it is so exciting. And to put them in a bag like this is really motivating, because every time you finish one, you're like, yes, one closer. And then when you get done with the bag, you're like, okay, I'm done now, I'm good. And then you can move on to the next step. So I'm waiting to finish this, and then I think I'm going to dye some. I was contemplating, as one does. I was thinking maybe I'd buy some knit picks, kind of in a creamy color, to use to attach them all together. But then I was like, I'm a dyer. Do I really need to buy knit picks yarn? I could just use some of my undyed yarn, dye myself some linen, which is the color that came in the 2023 Advent Countdown, sort of a creamy brown gray kind of color. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do, but I haven't decided yet. I'm really trying hard to not buy yarn. And although technically dyeing it for myself is sort of bringing it in, it's much more cost effective, I think, in the end. I guess I'll have to look. Depends. Knit Picks sometimes has some really great sales. So if they're having a really great sale, it might be just as cost effective for me to purchase it. So maybe I'll end up doing that. But if not, that is sort of the plan. So I purposefully am not using colors in my granny squares that are like a really light gray or really light cream, so that they will stand out. So yeah, so very exciting. I'm going to put this back here for now because I am sitting in front of where that goes. But I'm excited to finish that. Ooh, throw my little rings in there. So that I have been working on, and it is going swimmingly. The other thing I brought on my vacation, I'm telling you, I knit a lot on vacation. I knit, let's see, three full socks, so a pair and a half of socks, and almost a whole sweater, 11 granny squares, and then I also worked a little bit on this. This is my heel toe do-si-do socks, and this is a pattern by Kay Litton of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast and designs. And let's see, I got too many needles here. I did I break a needle? I don't remember what I did, but when we were on vacation, I think it's because I finished a different pattern, so I have all these extra little needles here. Don't want to break any of them. But so this yarn is by Leading Men Fiber Arts. I don't know if I have the colorway in here. I probably do not, because I am not that organized. But I can show you the pattern. There is the pattern. It's kind of a dark color and highly variegated, so it's really hard to see. But this pattern looks really cool in a stripy sock yarn. So I started it. I do love the pattern. I've knit a different pair. I think I knit, I don't know, maybe it was variegated too. Anyway, I've knit this pattern before. It's well written. It's a lovely pattern. This is where I was when I left. So I did knit a fair bit. I got through the heel, and the gusset stitches. And I think I'm still 2, 4, 6, 10, 12. Yes, I'm still working on the gusset decreases. I haven't quite finished. But what I did decide, partly because I really want to finish these for my son. These are for my 19-year-old son, Ian. He typically helps me when I set up at an event like Zombie Knit Apocalypse. He is my checkout guy and my hauler of boxes and helps with setup and all that jazz. And he picked this yarn out the first year that we did Zombie Knit Apocalypse together. And so I really wanted to finish these for him before it got too warm. I've kind of stalled on it. And the reason I had stalled on it is because, one, it's a patterned sock and I have to think about it. And two, it is a very thin fingering weight yarn. It's 463 yards to 100 grams. So it's, I think it's a 75-25, which I typically tend to like the 80-20 with about 400 to 420 yards per skein. And I think it's just because I'm a loose knitter and it just goes faster when it's slightly thicker. So anyway, these I cast on a long time ago, and then I ripped them out and started again. Because of the slip stitch pattern and the lighter weight yarn combination, it was making my gauge was a lot tighter. And I was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to get them over his feet. So a little while ago, I ripped it out completely and I restarted it. And now I am doing 72 stitches for him instead of 64. However, what I decided when I was on vacation is that I am not going to continue the pattern into the foot because I want to get them done. He's not going to care. And it is dark. It is hard to see with my old lady eyes the pattern anytime that isn't like full sun or I'm like right under a light. So the foot is going to be just all stockinette, and because of that, I'm going to decrease down to 64 stitches through the gusset instead of the 72 like I had up above. So that is my plan, and hopefully I will not be stalled for too long on these because, and if I am, it's not the end of the world. It's been such a mild winter here in Minnesota. It's actually kind of frightening. To me as a person, but also as a grower of things, as a farmer. I don't really ever think of myself as a farmer. I feel like I'm more of a grower. I don't know why. My husband and I were having this very long, detailed discussion about am I a grower or am I a farmer? He thinks I'm a farmer, but I don't know. I feel like farming is like this big, huge thing you do with big tractors, and I mostly grow things and do things by hand. So anyway, whole different conversation. But it's like I said, it's been a mild winter, so he actually told me he hasn't really started wearing wool socks very much. He hasn't even washed his wool socks yet because of that. So I can set these away and give them to him in the fall, maybe before he goes back to school. I can send them to him or keep them for Christmas, any of such things. So yeah, so that's what that is, the heel toe do-si-do socks. And I'm kind of chatty today, but that's okay. All right, so let's see. I have 3 more projects, 2, and then a third one that I'm going to kind of leads into the very fun yarns topic. But this, in my big, extra large, very fun yarns tote, is my bounce blanket. Now, if you have been with me for a little while, again, the bounce blanket is it's a pattern by Tin Can Knits, first of all, paid for pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I'm knitting it out of my Yarn Inc. 2023 DK Advent Countdown Kit, which was a fade, and I think I have done 3 or 4 colors since I saw you last. I'll hold it up to show you. Let's see if I can get this a little bit. There we go. So I am now on color 10. And this isn't going to be a huge blanket. The pattern, I did do an extra repeat. And each color for me is using almost exactly 20 grams of DK weight yarn, which you could easily do, hold 2-fingering weight double, I'm sure. I'm using a size US 6 needle, which I think the pattern is a US 8. The difference between mine and the pattern is that let me see if I can show you. The pattern, if you see here, has this contrast stripe in between of garter stitch, and I am choosing not to do that because I want the fade to be continuous. So I'm still doing those rows, but I'm doing it in the same color. So you can see here. So this is one, I guess it's easier to see with a different color. This is all one color, and then I do these 4 rows of garter, and then I switch to a new color. So I did the kit came with a large skein, so I cast on with that and did the first section with that, and I'll probably do the ending with that as well. But the color itself, it doesn't really, I thought maybe I could do a section of that in the middle of the blanket, kind of where that color fit, but it doesn't quite fit. It kind of ruins the fade in the middle. So I think I'm just going to leave it, and I'm just going to do the edging on either edges with it, and I'll just have the majority of my 100-gram skein left to do something else with. But I would have loved for it to be a bigger blanket, but like I said, the pattern, I think I am doing the larger version, but it's meant to be more of like a lap blanket, baby blanket size. So, this is 10. This is, I would say it's maybe, by the time I block it, it'll be bigger, but it's probably 15 to 18 inches long and probably 36 to 40 inches wide right now. And I'm on the 10th color, so a little bit more than a third of the way done. So it'll be a nice little blanket, but not huge. I decided I'm not going to try and make it huge. I'm just going to go with it. And it'll probably be one of those blankets that maybe I drape over my shoulders, kind of more like a shawl kind of thing, or, sleep kind of cuddled up with, but not like a full blanket. I think when I first started making blankets, and even till just recently, I just thought that all blankets needed to be huge blankets. And sometimes they're fine to not be a huge blanket. And it's okay to have these smaller ones that you just kind of put on your lap when you're sitting in a chair. And because if you make them in wool, they're probably pretty warm to begin with. So that is the bounce blanket. I'm really liking it. Actually, that's what I was working on today right before I came to record. You can kind of see the fade better if I hold it back, but there are quite a few colors up here that are very similar in their intensity. This is the new one, which is closer to a solid, like purpley blue. And then I did peek again. I mean, I've opened these all already, but I looked ahead, and color 11 is kind of getting more into the blue hues. So it's kind of like a bluish purple. And then in the end, it does go down. I think it goes to a light blue. It's kind of funny. You open these things and then you kind of forget because it's been so long. But I really like that. And I'm looking forward to finishing that. That is a project I brought into this year from last year. So if you are doing the Finish More in 2024 and you are keeping score, this one came from last year. Let's see, what else came? My heel toe dosey dough came from last year. My granny square came from last year. And, I skipped one. And this next one, which is my DK jelly roll blanket, which is down here, also came from last year. So I'm plugging away working on my projects from last year. Here's I decided to put this in a basket as well, and I did the same thing for this. So I did notice one of the things when I was making my granny square blanket, I was noticing that I have 2 colors, that I made 2 of the same color, which it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to throw one out just because there's 2 the same. They'll just be on different ends of the blanket, but ideally I really wanted every square to be a different color yarn. So that was another reason that I decided to go through my mini skeins, because I was kind of checking to see which ones I had used and which ones I hadn't. And the ones that I had used, then I moved them into this bag, which is a Very Fun Yarns medium zipper tote, which I love this size. It fits a ton of yarn in it. And look, inside there is a bunch of mini skeins that I have ready to add to my blanket. Now, I showed you this last time. I'm trying to think where I was. I think, oh, I know where I was. I was here. I was just adding in the Love is in the Air collection. So I was kind of down here where this little pin is. And I finished my third stripe. So this section you're seeing here, this is a self-striping yarn that I held double with a pale pink. And I can't remember, I got it as a gift. I don't remember who it's by. Fiber Nymph, maybe? I can't remember. But it's a beautiful thing, beautiful color. So that's what that is there. And then I have some lavender loom up on the top there. And this is, I think, a different self-striping that I got from a friend that I held double. So yeah, so this one is going to be a super long. I would say this one is probably 6.5 feet long, and I'm going to make it this way. So this one's going to be the goal of this one is to make it quite large. This one I am not in a hurry to finish. In fact, I don't know that I'll finish it by the end of the year. It's just kind of when I feel like knitting on it, I do. And I forgot to say, it is the Jelly Roll pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. I am knitting mine, it is a fingering weight pattern, but I am doing it in DK weight, which I believe I saw Kay is coming out with some new instructions that she's going to add to the pattern for DK weight. I'm not sure if those are out yet, but she was going to put those in as a modification. But I'm using a US size 6, and I'm holding 2 skeins or 2 strands of fingering double. Any modifications that I made are on my project page as far as like the number that I have on my needles when I have them on the needles. But yeah, really liking that too. So the goal eventually would be that I would have like a smaller, eventually. Now I say eventually, meaning like when I get all of my other blankets done except this one, I would have another, maybe I'll do another granny square, maybe I'll do something else, I don't know. But I would have a different blanket that would make like a square or a hexagon or something like that. And I would put the yarn in there when I'm done, like say with a pair of socks. And then whatever's left would go into my DK Jelly Roll or a blanket similar. I know Kay Jones also has like the Bits and Bobs blanket, which looks really fun too. Sort of like a fisherman's rib type kind of. I think it's a faux fisherman's rib, but something like that I could use up as much as I wanted. And then if I got tired of the color, then I put that in another bag that I share with my friends who are also doing scrap projects. But that is the plan. You know, when you get a lot of, I have to say that scraps and mini skeins in particular, are very appealing to purchase. I don't know if you were one of the mini skein purchasers out there, but I know that I'm not the only one, because mini skeins are one of my most popular things that I sell in my shop. And they're so fun to purchase because they're so beautiful and there's so many colors. You get some of every color, but they very quickly can get out of control, as is the case with scraps. So like I'm kind of lucky in that most of the people in my house have pretty good sized feet. So I use about 3/4 of a skein of 100-gram sock yarn per pair of socks. So it's not like I have a whole half a skein left. So, but I still have 25 grams left. And that can add up, just having those extras if you don't have a plan with what to do with them. So I do like the scrap blankets for that plan. Plus it's just fun to see all of the little projects. As you look at the yarn, you're like, oh, I remember that yarn, I remember that yarn, you know, that kind of thing. So that is kind of fun. I'm down to my last 2 projects to show you, and this first one is actually a cast on. And after I ran out of yarn in Florida with my husband's sweater, I was like, oh, I'm going to cast on a new sweater for myself when I get back because I really want to put another sweater on the needles. And so I spent a lot of time looking at patterns and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And there has been this one pattern that I have really loved, not for a super long time, but I guess I'd have to look, maybe at least the last year or so. I'm not sure when it came out, but it is called the Alanis or Alanis, and it is by Elizabeth Smith. It is actually it's shown as a short sleeve sweater, but it has a beautiful neckline, and it is knit from the bottom up, and it's sort of it's if I were to knit it, you could also knit it from the top down, but the pattern is written bottom up. It reminds me of it is in essence, this construction is the same as a drop sleeve sweater, because, hey, look, I'm wearing kind of a drop sleeve right now, because the sleeve kind of hits you here, and then you have just a little, I think there's a little cuff for the edging. And the only reason I haven't cast it on, it's super cute, but it's in worsted weight, and it's short sleeve. And I just was like, yeah, I could wear a long sleeve shirt under it. But in the winter, I really like long sleeve sweaters. I tend to wear the long sleeve ones way more than the short sleeve ones. But as I looked at it, I decided that because of the way it's constructed, I can just cast on, this is my plan anyway, I'm going to pick up stitches around the edge of my short sleeve because of how it's constructed. The sleeve is going to be a part of the knitting horizontally, am I saying that right? Knitting back and forth this way. And I'll just pick it up like it's a drop shoulder sweater, and I'll just knit down, and I'll try it on as I go and add the decreases as I need. I feel like I've done enough sweaters that I'll be able to do that. So that is my plan. Now, I've mentioned this before, that I am a loose knitter. And I guess it's a good thing to be a loose knitter in that I'm obviously very relaxed when I knit. I think part of the reason why I am a looser knitter is because, although ironically, the only time I wasn't a loose knitter was during COVID when I knit socks and things very tightly. But as is the case when the life is stressful. But the point here is that I learned how to tension my yarn. I'm a continental knitter because I learned to crochet first, and that was how my grandma taught me to tension yarn. And so I think it just gets looser in my hand, and I have tried like double wrapping it to make it a little bit tighter, which I do sometimes. It's just not as comfortable. I don't enjoy it, and I am all for promoting you and me and everyone to knit and craft in the way that makes them happiest. I am not a believer of like, you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong. You just do what you do, as is the case. But so one of the hacks I've learned, because I am a looser knitter, and I generally am on the smaller side of the pattern offerings for sizing. So I can't always just be like, oh, well, my gauge is tighter and go down a size, or, because there isn't always an option for that. So what I have done, because I do love mohair, is that I often hold a strand of mohair with whatever, so in this case it's worsted. I'm holding mohair with it because that gives me very close to the right gauge with the needle that is recommended in the pattern. So I get a lot closer to what I'm supposed to be. So it makes it easier. Now in this case, I don't think I am. I can't remember. I don't have my pattern printed off here, but I am using only a US size 5 needle, which I still think is smaller, and I'm still getting a bigger gauge than is recommended on the pattern. So I think I'm supposed to do a size small, so the size 2, and I'm actually doing the extra small, the size 1, because I This pattern actually has quite a bit of positive ease. So this is just the front side of the pattern. So yeah, but you know what? I like the gauge that I'm getting. It just feels nice. And, you know, once I get in the round, I know it will loosen up even more, but I don't really care because this pattern has a very, I think it's supposed to have like 10 inches of positive ease. It's a very big, kind of boxy sweater pattern. And I know I will love it and wear it a ton. So anyway, that is a lot of rambling to show you this tiny little piece of knitting that I started. So here is what I have so far. And this is the Wool of the Andes tweed. So it's a non-super wash in the, I think it's Square Dance. I think so. Square Dance, the pink colorway, the dark pink. And I'm holding it double with a Berry Fun Yarns mohair. I have two other skeins. They're not exactly the same. This one is a little lighter. But when it comes right down to it, I do not think it will matter. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this one that's a little more cotton candy-like, and this one's a little more like rosy pink. I'm going to save this one and use this for like the sleeves or maybe like the cuff edging or the neckline up here, just in case. And then I'll use the other ones for the body of the sweater. So anyway, I'm holding it double. And the pattern starts at the bottom, like I was saying, and it has a split hem, which I really love. That's such a beautiful feature on sweaters. And so you knit the split, I think it's 4 inches on one side. I think that's the back, it's a little bit longer. Then you knit the other side, and then you pick up and you knit in the round to go up to the armpits, and then you do the neck shaping and the rest. But it has this really pretty I-cord edging. If you can see that on either side of the hem. So the other thing that's kind of nice about holding the mohair double is that I don't know, I was obviously in a different place when I purchased this yarn. I bought a sweaters quantity. I think I was planning on making another Louisiana sweater for myself and holding it double because I got a lot of yarn. But this is a very vibrant pink tweed. And, you know, it's not all that different from what I'm wearing here, but this mutes it just a little bit, which I like. So that is the Alanis by Elizabeth Smith. I have not gotten very far, but I'm sure I will work on that. My problem is right now I want to work on everything all the time. I want to knit everything. I want to crochet everything. I want to do all the diamond painting and baking of things, and I don't want to do anything else. So I guess there could be worse problems, but I'm feeling very creative in the crafty sense right now. So yeah, that is my last work in progress to show you. The next one that I want to show you is technically a work in progress. I did knit on it all since I came to you last, but it is going to be ripped out. And that is because we are moving into the Berry Fun Yarn news, and this is the Snow Plow Cowl pattern, which I designed, and it is a very simple pattern, and it will be coming out shortly. My test knitters are finishing up right now. The pattern went pretty well in test knitting. The only bit that was challenging was the fact, oh, I lost one of my little guys, was the fact that the colors in my kits that I created came out slightly different than I planned. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Holding yarn double. So this pattern features a Surrey Fluff fingering weight yarn. It is 100% Surrey alpaca. A lot of times you see this yarn, but it is lace weight, not fingering weight. But you can see just from looking at that how fluffy that is. And you hold that double with a fingering weight yarn, like an 80-20 sock yarn. And then you get this beautiful fluffy cowl. So I was making this pink one for myself, and I will show you. If you look close, you can kind of see the pink and these lights. It's starting to get dark out. I think it's like 4 o'clock or something. I don't know. Is it? Let's see. Oh goodness, it is 4:45 already. No wonder. But you can kind of see back here, this right here is this yarn that is held double with the pink. Okay, so you can kind of see the yellow there. This is the main color, which is Women Belong Everywhere, which I love, which is being held with this. Now, when you look at these colors, this is what amazes me. These look very different to me. However, they are dyed in a very similar way. And my wonderful test knitters and their experience with my kits have taught me a ton of lessons about this. And that is that when you hold, and so I share these with you, when you are holding a strand of fingering or whatever, double with a fluffy yarn, and you want contrast, it's about more than color. It is about the dye techniques, the dye styles. You need more contrast than you think. So that is I'm telling you this because if you choose to knit my cowl, but you don't purchase one of my kits, and you go to pick out your own colors, or if you're doing another pattern, you want to have something with a greater contrast. So you can see this one is a similar color to here, and it matches, but it is it's going to stand out a lot better because it is a tonal. It is more of a solid / tonal yarn. And so when I did this was originally these were the colors that were supposed to be in the kit. So there was a lighter one, and then this dark one, and then this. Now, in hindsight, had I made this one the main color, which was real light, this is Tiny But Tough, which blows out a ton on screen, this one as the main color and the two variegated as the contrast, I think it would have been perfect, but I didn't. And so it just kind of blends together. You can kind of see the Tiny But Tough right here because it's solid. It doesn't have any speckles in it. So this sample will be ripped out, at least down to here. I haven't done it yet because, truth be told, ripping out Surrey fluff or mohair held double with something else is kind of a pain in the tuchus. But my plan, I am going to have purple kits and blue kits, green kits and pink kits, which will come out at the beginning of March is my plan. So today is February 29th. So hopefully in the next week or so, I will get those dyed up with the cowl kit. It might be closer to like March 5th to 7th. We'll see. But my plan is that this will still be for the pink one, the main color, but then I'm going to have a color similar to this and then kind of a darker orange. I think I'm going to use I was holding it with it, the colorway, I Really Love Your Peaches from the Love is in the Air collection to go with it. So we'll have 2 solid tonals with 1 variegated, and it will look great. So yeah, all that to say. And then the kits, I decided I still liked, ironically, these wonderful ladies, Lynn, Olivia, and Debbie, shout out to you, have been wonderful. And they all chose a different color of one of my kits. So I kind of got to see them all, and we all got to kind of look and see what was happening. Lynn came up with this fabulous idea to put in some accent color to kind of separate her colors to make them stand out more, which was a fabulous idea. But the purple kit I'm going to keep as is, and the blue kit I'm going to keep as I originally had, but I'm going to rework the green kit and the pink one just a little bit. So yeah, so that will be coming for Berry Fun Yarns. I'm super excited about that. Previously, I've had all these smashing ideas in my brain before I left about all these things that I wanted to design and create kits for, and then, time. There's just not enough time in the day to do all the things you want to do. And I know you all feel that with me. because it just is just a part of life, isn't it? But so I'm going to keep some of those ideas in the back of my head, and hopefully over the months, you'll start to see more of those come to life. I will be I do have a plan for a fingerless mitten kit, which you can use for anything, but will be made with 250-gram skeins of yarn. That will be coming. I think that's the next one I'm going to work on. But yeah, so that being said, if you are at all interested in being in my pool of test knitters, you're welcome to send me an email at berryfunyarns@gmail.com. And when I have those things ready, I will send out a note probably to the people who have test knit to me first. But I'm, always open to having new people, because it's so fun to get to know people in that way, and we all learn something through the process. It's just kind of an amazing thing. So yeah, I think that's it for today. A lot of rambling. The light is leaving me. My husband's going to be coming home soon from work, and I need to go make dinner, which I think I'm going to make some kind of chickpea curry tonight because that sounds good. So wherever you are, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are well. I hope you are finding lots of joy from your crafting, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.